Terrific.
Man, you did it again. You got to not talk until I say we're cut.
I'm so excited. I know.
I
so now
know.
you have to edit that out. So
I do. I don't. I might have
the
caught
only
it.
edit you have to make. That's not
pretty
so
good.
bad.
I can make that edit. I used to edit all the time. But
It's
yeah,
no, I know you. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Wait, so you guys have been doing this for 10 years or 9 years, coming up on 10.
Yeah.
This is episode 524.
524, it looks like.
Yeah.
That's wild. And it looks like, or you said you've started businesses together. What did you guys start together?
I was Dave's customer years
Right.
and years ago with a company I owned called Mac Rescue, and I was buying ads on his one of his sites, and I reached out to one of their sales guys who was they had started an advertising agency, and I wanted to start a kind of deal based website, and I was spending a lot of money pushing my deals. I owned a tech company selling products. Like you, I wanted an unfair advantage. So I wanted to start my own deal and news website. And I reached out, I got connected with Dave, and we ran that business for a decade. I really wanted to I had to make $1,000 a month to pay for my kids' private school, and then $2,000. And we grinded it out. After a couple of years, it started going. At at its height, I think we had a $30,000 a month.
We were each
awesome.
taking about 10K a month out, and then we had expenses.
Well, we
had
weren't
an
doing it
employee.
anymore. It was
Right.
running itself, and it almost sold. It's one of those right to the finish line. It might even have been the note that Dave wrote.
I might have killed it. That's
This
true.
deal fell through, and we had a media company involved. Dave had lunch with this guy, and we had a LOI and the whole 9 yards, and it
just
fell
fell
apart.
through.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, and we were kind of asking for too much, and then it just went up and down, and then we didn't hear from him for like 20 days, and right at the end of that 30-day due diligence window, they backed out.
They bailed. Yeah.
So what happened? You guys just shut it down? Or?
Yeah, the lesson we learned was that you don't emotionally detach from the business
That was gone.
or emotionally attach to the sale until the check is cleared.
Yep.
Yes.
Because it kind of took the wind out of
Totally.
the business, and I was like, shit.
And that
this
advice
sucks.
is impossible to take. There is a moment before the check clears where you have to start thinking about what it's going to be like to hand this thing off, right? Like, I mean, it's impossible. So, but delay it as long as you possibly can.
Yeah. But then, it was great. It was a huge success. Paid for all my kids' education.
It was awesome.
Then we kind of didn't do anything for I don't know how many years, and then I wanted to start this podcast. I'm like, I love talking about small business. I didn't do it to make any money. I just wanted to start talking, and so I reached out and said, dude, let's do a small business show podcast. Dave's advertising agency, Backbeat Media, had since transitioned to repping ads on podcasts. So again, another unfair advantage, and started doing it. But between the two of us, we've started about 20 companies.
Yeah, we figured it out. It's over 20. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's fun, man. You're on your way, dude. Because I was doing
Yeah, you're going to do it. Yeah,
I think
there's
about
no
the
way
future.
you're going to.
I try and surround myself with all my friends who are much more successful than me, but they're also
Now,
much older.
maybe. Yeah.
Currently. Yeah.
And that's like, I call it the double-edged sword, because on one hand, it's awesome. I have friends that are worth literally hundreds of millions of dollars. And then on the other hand, it's terrible because you're like, yeah, no, I would love to go to the Formula One race with you, but I can't. I'm not there yet. And he's like, I can't invest in this company that you're telling me about that you think I should, because I don't have money to do that yet.
Yep.
But you have to be around those people, because
time.
someday the switch will flip.
Exactly.
And when my friend Brian says, hey, there's this really cool new company, I'm investing. Do you want to invest? I can say, yes, I'm able to now. And that might turn into something
because
100
you're
times
hanging
more.
out with those people that have and are able to do more than you can. That will drive you forward. I think you have to do that. If all you did was surround yourself with people who are less successful or even as successful as you won't, like most of us won't level up.
That's why I want to move, because I'm like, man, if I've been able to find this many people here in this small town, how cool would it be if I go somewhere bigger where there's
great framework.
Way more people who were successful like this? And there's all these axioms people say, your network is your net worth. but it's
Yeah,
totally
your
true.
five
It's
average
totally
of your
true.
five people. It is true, and I in my experience, what you were building and then going to go to build the next thing. I always say we don't as small business owners or entrepreneurs, we don't have freedom, but we have flexibility like no one else. And I can tell you, I know a couple of guys that are billionaires and hang out and drink beers with them, and they're constantly like, "Dude, you can do anything. You can, I fish and I hunt all the time." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go." And they're like, "How do you leave? I got all this shit." And I'm just like, "When's it enough, man? Come on." But they get addicted to it, right? So
Yeah,
yeah. But you're on the right track, that's for sure.
Oh
we're
yeah,
getting there. Who
Yeah.
you guys got coming on next? What kind of business?
it's just us.
We're just doing us. So we don't
We mostly
stopped-
do us.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
mostly just talk. When we used to do interviews every week, and then what we saw over time is that's what everybody does.
Yeah,
So I did the Charlie Munger thing, and I'm all, we got to invert. And so we just cut off all interviews. We just started talking. Our engagement went up, our downloads went up, and then we cut the show in half and do it. We recorded it once, but we posted a Wednesday show and a Friday show. So this Friday, we're going to talk about, I did a post about credit card chargebacks and scams and fraud today. That's getting some steam up on X, and that's going to be the topic of the show.
yeah, I saw that post. I didn't actually read it yet, but I did see it.
Get up there, read it.
It's people. I love that invert the Charlie Munger thing. Rest in peace. But that's the same thing. My favorite podcast ever is My First Million. It's from the
Great.
Hustle guys, or back when it
Yep.
was the Hustle, and they did the same thing. They were doing the interviews, on the constant hamster wheel of that. And I think one week, like by accident, they figured this out. An interview fell through or something, and so Sam and Sean just talked, and they're
Yep.
just like, let's make a business, like break it down right here on the show, and everybody absolutely loved it, and so they just kept doing that, and that became absolutely my favorite podcast. I go back and forth between listening to audiobooks and podcasts.
Sure.
And right now I'm in a podcast kick because I love that show.
Yeah, it's a great show, and I agree. Is that the key is constant iteration. This podcast used to be called the Small Business Show, and we changed the name a couple of years ago. So it's just keeping it fresh. And yeah, we have advertisers, and I love it. The Shopify, the Miro, and Amazon, all these guys advertise, and it helps pay the bills. Great to get a check every once in a while. But collaborating, I really love coming on talking to Dave, and I say,
Yeah, it's just like an excuse for you guys to hang out and stay
It's
close.
exactly what
exactly.
it is.
You could.
Yes.
I always tell people when they ask about the podcast and we're like sitting there having a beer talking about it, I said, we could have just recorded this conversation and it would have been a good podcast. Because people, there's my ideal listener, it's like your customer profile, is me when I was starting out and I didn't
That's it.
have any support and everybody thought I was nuts and how are you going to pay your bills and all this kind of crap. And it's I want to talk to that person who's listening in the middle of the night going, God, man, I don't know if I can make this work. I want to help that guy.
That's who I was when or not quite who I was. That's who I wanted to be when I first found the My First Million podcast. I was still working a job. I hated it. I wanted to get out. And then I did quit. And then I became that guy who was listening to it late, being like, all right, I'm going to make it somehow.
Yep.
I'm going to learn something on this. Even if I'm not going to learn anything, I'm just going to listen to these guys who have done it, and it's going to help.
Osmosis helps, man.
It does, dude.
It really does.
the
Everybody
thing-
does. They underestimate the power of it. Like
Yeah.
my sister was asking me. I was in Chicago this weekend, and she's like, what we're talking. I'm going to the. Either of you guys go to the Main Street Summit in Columbia,
I
Missouri?
think I've got one. I've definitely heard it. Yeah, seen it.
It's Brent Beshore's thing. He's absolute killer. It's awesome, and I'm going to this thing because everybody that I like on X is
gonna be
there.
there.
You know, like I saw the lineup and I was like, this is the easiest yes I've ever had. I wanted to go last year, but I didn't have enough money, so
Sure.
I finally do this year. And she was like, why are you going? Like, what are you hoping to get out of it? I'm like, well, I just want to be around these people. And she's
Yes.
like, and that's worth spending $3,000 on the ticket. And I was like, absolutely. Like,
Yes, it is.
Yes.
10 years from now, it might take 10 years, but
Yep.
somebody that I met there might introduce me to somebody 10 years down the line that I start a business with and make way more than 3,000.
Oh,
And
dude,
she was like,
absolutely.
that's that's your hope to go to this thing? Like, just no plan? And I was like, yep.
Yep.
That's the same reason I want to move. Absolutely no
You got
plan.
it. That
Just
framework.
want to
is-
be around
is
those
awesome.
people.
No,
Yeah.
it's it. Yep. I had a business where it was like Geek Squad before Geek Squad existed. We would go and like help people at their homes and offices with their computers. And, I'd have some clients that would be recurring clients, or I'd work for them at their business and they'd bring me to their home. And invariably, I was going to see clients who had more than I did, right? And I'd get to know them a little bit. You're sitting there. This was back in the day when you were feeding floppies in to like install Windows or whatever. So there was a lot of time to chit chat. And not only did I develop my skills of developing a rapport with people, but I also just got to, just by nature of what I was doing, I was immersed in their homes. And just seeing how, like, wow, these people live in the same town as me, but look at where they are compared to where I am. And it wasn't like I would go in with envy or anything. It was just awareness. It was like, wow.
That's the awareness thing is also huge. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no, that's it.
I would not know what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I wouldn't know that owning a business was possible and creating incredible wealth for yourself was possible if it weren't for my uncle. My uncle started a construction company that he sold for, I don't know how much money, but he's not worth quite $100 million, but I think he's on his way there.
Awesome. Yeah.
Sure.
And I grew up seeing that, and that was the only person that I was close to that ever owned a business. The only person I was really close to that had that much money, and I was like, I wouldn't even know this was possible if he wasn't my uncle, unless I had done something like you were doing, and you start to see those people.
Yes,
I just think the awareness is so huge.
It is,
because so many people don't even know what's possible with life.
And I do have some issues with a lot of folks on X, and even sometimes with the Millionaire Pod, where I call them civilians, people outside the entrepreneurial space, right? Civilians are fascinated with the end state. And I think sometimes that can be daunting to just always hear about success, I nailed it, versus this foundational building that you're doing right now that is crucial. I guarantee you'll tell this story when you're in your 50s like I am. And you go, dude, I had nothing. I started this silly newsletter, and then that led to this. And I met
the
this
first
guy.
4 years sucked.
Yeah, of course, it always sucks.
Overnight success takes about 20 years,
exactly.
so you're on your
it
way.
Always sucks.
Maybe 25.
Maybe
People are-
20. Yeah.
Yeah, so people are civilians are very much at a disadvantage if they only focus on the end state and being enamored to it. And I love pulling yourself forward. I want to get to this point, but the grind, man, it's tough, but it expands. And all of a sudden, I can tell you, exponentially, opportunities start coming your way. And, you make good money, maybe get a couple things going, but building wealth, as Dave and I can attest to, all of a sudden, it's like the flywheel starts kicking off, and you're just like, holy shit, man. I couldn't have done this deal.
Yeah,
I don't have, I didn't,
look,
yeah.
I can't wait. I know it's going to happen. I'm going to
will.
look back and I'm going to be like, for the first 4 years, I couldn't find $1. I barely made it through.
Of course.
And then I, finally got to the place where I replaced my salary from the job I quit. And to me, that's a huge deal.
It
It's
is huge.
exciting.
It's a huge deal.
It took
Huge.
4 years, 3.5 years to get there.
Yeah, but
And I'm
now
like,
you get that. Now you have that momentum.
Got it.
And I'm like, I think, and I'm pretty sure based on, the ad sales that I think we could do this year, even if I can't hire a salesperson, I just have to go do it myself. And then also teaching these people how to do this newsletter. I'm pretty sure I'll make 4 times as much money this year as I did last year.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been possible without, the 3.5 years
Yeah,
before.
you got
None
to
of it.
grind
I
it.
made $0,
Yes.
$10,000,
So that's
$20,000.
Yes.
And you're like, you can't live on that. But
No.
I luckily had money saved up
Yeah, you
because I
start.
knew I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. I like how you call them civilians. That's more respectful. I like to call them normies.
No, but they don't understand. And
No, they can't.
it's just a mindset. Why are you doing this? And like right now, I'm restarting. I want to build a business and productize my knowledge. I've shipped products my whole life, and I'm forcing myself. I'm actually donating my last product business to a great charity because I'm making myself stop because I'm addicted. Right? How much did I ship today? That's my rubric my whole life, but I'm stopping, and I'm starting again at 0. And in some ways, it's terrifying.
Not really 0 though.
Well,
well, it's a new 0 though. It's
Yeah,
It's a
it's
new
your
0.
zero.
Yes.
It's not
yes.
0, but it's your baseline. But your baseline
I don't know what I'm
increases
doing
as you go.
Yes,
Because you now, you probably have thousands of people you can call
Yeah, that's right.
And like, oh yeah, I'm doing this. This guy knows about that. Hey,
Thing.
Yes.
you know, and then it gets so much easier. Like even just
It
with your
does.
knowledge alone, it
Yeah.
took me
Yes.
3.5 years to get to the point where Naptown Scoop was profiting, you know, a certain number, and I think I can get someone else there in a year and a half because first of all,
yeah.
they'll know that I
Yeah.
told you being around for the events is super important. They'll know
Yeah.
that from day one, not day or month number 9. You
Yep.
know, they'll know which Facebook ads work well to grow the thing. They'll know, no, you don't spend money cash
It's your
sponsoring
system, dude.
events because
Yes.
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But you also like you donate advertising to every single event that asks because that comes back to you. It's you know, all these things. The next time I start, we'll start from zero, but it's the new baseline. It's not zero.
It's
Yeah,
the
a
new zero.
baseline.
Yeah,
You're
it's
right.
yeah.
And it's just
Just came
starting
up with that on the
with
fly. I think that's pretty good.
yes, something.
The new baseline.
I like that. Yeah, it's good. You got all kinds of good terms here. We love that kind of stuff on the show. It's great. But starting something that you know nothing about is really what. Okay, here's a brand new challenge. How do I do it? I'll suck. And there's a guy I follow, Lucas Bean, up on X, and he's at Luke360, and he has this comment: "Have the courage to suck at something new."
Yeah.
And man,
How'd
I
you
really-
learn how to do that?
Because I've done it so many
Fail a
times,
lot.
failing.
No, but like,
and
do
it-
you remember a specific failure or specific
Yes.
thing? Which one?
Yes. When I made $1 million mistake. I posted about this like a couple weeks ago, and I had to pay $1 million. I said yes one afternoon, and it screwed me a few years later, and I had to repay this company $1 million. And I didn't have it, and it was
I did read that.
yeah, it was a pretty popular post. It was brutal. Like,
Yeah, I think the whole time I was reading it, I'm like, man, I'm glad that's not me.
dude, I had a hard time.
but he's glad it was him now.
Yeah, now, because at the time, I kept telling myself, this will not be the definitive moment of my business career. But now, when I look back, it was, but in the different way.
But yeah, it wasn't the like Shannon's a
didn't-
failure because
correct.
of this. It's Shannon's not a failure because of this.
Correct. Once I could do that, I was unstoppable. I'm like, dude, I ran 2 companies while I paid back $1 million within 5 years. Yeah, it was a struggle. My wife stuck through it with me. And then things just started happening.
Well, you have that
exponentially.
momentum, and you're no longer going to service that debt.
I was
That's
not
huge.
afraid. And I was not afraid because I knew what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, if I could pay back $1
Yes.
million, I'm good. I learned how to suck in a very different way. I learned through rock climbing because I always wanted to go rock climbing. I was like, I love climbing and everything, and I was like, I want to go rock climbing. That'll be fun. I think that's my sport. And nobody is good at rock climbing when they first start because you just never use those muscles like that. Like it's just so hard. It's so different from everything else that you do in your daily life. And so I was terrible, absolutely terrible when I started. But I was a good climber, and like everything, like my friends and I used to climb buildings and all sorts, like trees. Could climb trees like nobody's business. Even when I was like 21, weird time to be climbing trees, but I just like climbing stuff. But I wasn't very good at rock
that's awesome.
climbing because it's so different and hard.
Yeah.
And I remember my friend, actually my roommate in college, had always been saying these things like, "Oh man, Ryan's good at everything," and I was like, it always made me mad when he would say that because I knew it wasn't true. So finally, I was like, "Why is he saying that?" And then I realized, oh, he's saying that because I only do the things I'm good at. And that's why that's why he's saying that. I am
That's
good
an
at
interesting
everything
way
I
to look
do.
at it.
But that's because he's never seen me play soccer. He's only seen me play ultimate frisbee. If we played soccer, he'd be like, "Oh, Ryan's definitely not good at everything."
Yeah.
And so when I started rock climbing, I was like, "Man, I'm not good at this." And my normal tendency in life, when I'm not good at it, is just to quit.
Stop.
And so
right.
that made me, because for some reason, I was like, no, I just think I'm supposed to like rock climbing. And so I just kept doing it. And I
great.
actually got quite good at it. And then I realized after that, like, no, I could suck at things because you have to suck at things when you start.
You got it. That's some good.
All right,
You
I got
should
it. I
mind
have
that.
to cut this off because we
Yeah.
have to record an
There we go.
episode.
Okay.
I would love to keep going, but I unfortunately have
That's
screwed
okay.
myself
I
schedule-wise for today.
gotta get working too before dinner
Yeah,
tonight.
Ryan,
But,
great to have you. Let's stay in touch.
one final thing for you,
Yeah.
Shannon, and you,
Yeah.
Dave, too, because you're part of this now. You said on that picture of your swimming pool, you said come for a swim sometime, and I'm totally going to do that when
Right
I
on.
start by the end of this year. When I start, finally replace the salary. I think I'll be making a lot more this year. I'm gonna go on like I want to
tour.
call it the Twitter tour because
I've done it.
I like
Yeah.
the alliteration.
Yeah.
But now it's gonna be the X tour. Maybe
That's
I'll call it the
awesome.
X Games. I call it the X Games.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go visit friends on Twitter that I've met.
It's the
And,
it's the Excapades.
Oh,
okay, I
that.
like it, Dave. There's a good
Yeah,
workshop, and
that's
it's now
tight.
the Excapades. But I'm gonna come swim in that pool. That place looks awesome.
It's great. It took me a long time to get here, but we love it up here, man. It's killer. I'm looking down at it right now out of my office, so
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah, I want to see that office too because that sounds awesome. And I've never been to New Hampshire, Dave, so I have to come up
Yeah,
and see you.
come
too.
on, come visit. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Right.
All right, we
Great
good,
to have
good
you, Ryan.
Leave? Everything
All right.
good?
Yeah, we're good.
We'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon.
Yes.
Take
All
care,
right.
buddy.
See y'all.